Now, what I want to do is to look at a very popular passage. We read this at funerals, we read it all the time. This is Psalm 23. Now, you see, I have all these written here, but if you follow in your Bibles, you hear, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want, and on and on and on and on. But look at the way he starts the passage. Now, he starts with the name of God, which is actually the covenantal name, the name that addresses God's character, God's nature, God's credentials. He doesn't say just God is, but it's Adonai. Now, very strangely, that this shepherd is saying, God is my shepherd. Let's look at that metaphor for a moment. When you look at a shepherd, the Lord is my shepherd, you don't understand it until you realize that a roer is somebody who has investment in the sheep. This David has invested so much in his sheep. He takes them out, he brings them in, he accounts for each one of them. Now all of a sudden, in one of those moments, he's thinking about, wait a minute, this is what I even do for the sheep that I purchased. But here is this God of Israel who has behaved towards me like I behave towards the sheep. And bingo, the Lord, my shepherd. He didn't say the Lord is my shepherd. The Lord, my shepherd. And that detonates faith in this man, David. Why, you may ask, why does he say God is his shepherd? He says, if God is behaving to me, towards me like I behave towards these sheep, then under no circumstance, in fact, there is one particle that I left out, lo, with the imperfect. That means under no circumstance will I ever lack anything. Do you see, if you come to your faith where you actually understand that God is that shepherd to you, why do you have to go to all these cheap people for your resources? I will never, ever lack. That combination here, just like the 10 Commandments, under no circumstance will I ever lack. Now, okay, God, what's your record? So throughout the text, he builds a case. The first one is, he says, Benodeshet Yarviteni. He just leads me like I lead my sheep out there and straightforward to green pastures. Let's pause for a moment. Green pastures. Why? Green pastures? Why don't you just take the sheep out? David cannot even look for green pastures. He just goes out on his own. And when they find some grass, okay, some sheep would be more aggressive than others. But here, this Yahweh, and whatever you do, don't forget this first line. Because notice what happens in the text. It begins with Yahweh, and it's going to end up with Yahweh. Look at that. That is what you call inclusio. And so this God leads me to green pastures. So imagine me lying down. I don't have to work really. And I eat, and I eat, and I sleep, and I eat, and I sleep, and I eat, and I sleep. That is divine provision. Now, if I were preaching this text in my church, I'll be talking about God's provisions. That's the first thing that you see. And then he, not only the food, when you eat, you drink also, don't you? So he has the menukat, the waters. These are refreshing waters. It's almost like you are in the desert and suddenly you stumble upon Coca-Cola in the desert. Do you understand how refreshingly cold that could be in a hot desert? That's what God does for me. See, there's somebody who understands. He's not taking God's provisions for granted as you and I do. And so when you get a little peso or a little taco and a little this thing, you think you have it all over. No, 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 no. This is real stuff here. God provides for me. Why? If I went through the whole text, you would see what is happening. He goes on, and he says, even if I encounter the most serious, the darkest situation, they call it Talmud, and we translated shadow of death. There is no such thing as shadow of death. It's thick, inexplicable darkness. That's what it is. And so throw whatever problem you want at me. Where I am so locked in, I cannot get out under any circumstance. He says, Ata imadi, you are with me. And then he goes on. Now there's the part that gets me going. He says, God is so with me, this covenantal God is so with me that I am overjoyed. And that overjoyed in your translation says, my cup runneth over. Here is the tricky part. You look at it, it says, kosi, my cup. Yes, kos is cup. But why is cup being used here? We don't ask that question. Why? Let me suggest to you, it is not about cup, because that same word means liver. Wait. Pastor, you are not being reasonable. Liver? My liver overflows? Wait, what's going on here? You know what he's saying? The joy that God gives me by providing all these just overwhelms you so much that I can't even contain myself. It's almost like I'm having a belly laugh. My liver, my kidneys, that is the seat of our deepest emotions. All that is coming out. In other words, I am cool with God. You see what that passage did? Now, how can you understand God in this way and then shack up with God? How can you do that? You can't. When you are just playing fast and loose with God because you don't understand the God of David. But when you understand all these, now challenge yourself. Do you think he has led you to green pastures? I'm not talking because you got a green card. Has he led you to green pastures? Okay. Think about it. If you really come to that point, there is no way. You may not have a mansion. You may not have 10 cars and whatnot. But there is no way you cannot be overjoyed. This is where true worship is. My cup runs over. I am extremely overjoyed. And guess where I'm going to land? Not in the desert, but in the house of the Lord. Forever. Not one day, forever. And so even if I don't have my green card, I have a better home. The house of Adonai. Look at where we started. Yahweh. Yahweh. Beginning and the end. Alpha and Omega. And if you have the Alpha, he will still be the Omega. Folks, the book you hold in your hand is very deep. Don't cheat yourself. Did it come out right?
Yeah, it was awesome. It was great. And 5.